Today, we gather as a community of humans in a new wave of gender and racial awareness, awakening, connecting, making new meaning, shifting old ethos. Today, we seek more than solidarity and harmony. We seek inclusion. We seek mutuality. We seek reconciliation. We seek justice for all people. Today, may our gathering of the waters reflect the gathering of our collective courage in service of the grace and love that is promised by our liberal faith.
Please join us for our chalice lighting. Julie will now light the chalice while I read The Spirit of Water by Katie Gelfand. We light this chalice as a symbol of reunion. We reunite in this online sanctuary to share the flow of our hearts with one another. We gather together in ritual to celebrate our fountains of joy, to hold each other through storms of grief, to guide one another through rapids of transformation, to rest together on ponds of stillness. Together we honor the spirit of water, its many forms, and its life-giving essence. Also, when we are able to gather together in person, we will once again gather on the homeland of the Pasquosa, where they lived for generations upon generations as stewards of this land. The Pasquosa people still live here. For over 2 centuries, the United States government has broken its 1855 and 1893 agreements with the Pasquosa. The government stole the land ceded to the Pasquosa through fraudulent surveys, indifference, and intentional violations by the land transfers to colonists and corporations. The Pasquosa continue their traditions and seek to have their rights recognized.
Please join me in singing our opening hymn, Come Sing a Song with Me. Make sure you are muted, and you can turn off your video if you are shy, but then belt it out. Make a joyful noise. It feels so good to sing. Come sing a song with me. Our first reading today, We Gather as Many Drops by Leslie Takahashi. We gather as many drops, each winding our own path down life's surfaces and ruts. Here we pool together as a single body, flowing together for a time. Together we are a stream, at times even a river. For with our shared force, we can travel towards oceans of meaning and seas of connection.
The next reading is All Rivers Run to the Sea by Kaylee Rice. It starts with a drop, then a trickle, a burble, a rush of water bubbling towards its destination, and finally the wide, endless sea. All rivers run to the sea. Today you brought water to pour into your own bowl. Though our experiences have differed, the waters will mingle, signifying our common humanity. Today you came and shared in this sacred community. May you depart this sacred space, hearts filled with hope for new beginnings, a fresh start. Go forth, but return to this community, where rivers of tears may be shed, where dry souls are watered, where your joy bubbles, where your life cup overflows, where deep in your spirit you have found in this place a home. All rivers run to the sea.
The offertory is an ancient element of worship. The act of giving, regardless of amount, is a spiritual practice that expresses our thankfulness and generosity. We live these values in abundance. Joyfully sharing our gifts and strengths in service to the greater good is one way we create beloved community. Your offering today to support the ministry of this church, and it also ensures the health and future of our communities, both inside these walls and in the world beyond. Thank you to all of you who are continuing to pay your pledges in this unusual time, and to those of you contributing extra, knowing that some have been unable to do this. Perhaps they've lost their jobs and cannot meet their pledge just now. The expenses of the fellowship continue, and your contributions are so welcome. We are blessed by your generosity. May these gifts make a difference in our communities through the ministries of this church. Join us next for a guided meditation led by Vern Smith.
Now settle into your space. Take a deep breath, and release it fully. Close your eyes if you wish. Join me as I read The Strength of Water by Jamila Batchelder and Molly Hoosh Gordon. The strength of water takes on many forms. Just as each of you has a unique and necessary strength that you bring to our community and to the work of love. Take a moment now to drop down into the deep wellspring of your own spirit and bathe yourself in the strength that is the groundwater of your person. Are you a roaring fall, wearing rock away with sheer force of will? Are you a tiny drop of water in a crevice, breaking it open slowly, steadily? Are you buoyant, like a great salt lake, practiced at holding others aloft? Are you tenacious, like the mountain stream, finding your way down and around every obstacle you face? Are you still and calm, like the pond at daybreak, offering radiant peace by your shores? Are you in touch with hidden depths, pulling from a vast well? Do you soothe like the steam rising from a cup of tea? Do you dissolve away stubborn muck like water left in a pot to soak? Do you soften and smooth the edges like a creeping fog? Do you clear away distraction like a cleansing rain? Do you roll with the ebb and flow like the ocean waves? Settle your mind upon the strength, the power that is yours. Draw that strength into your heart. Draw it up into your soul. As we gather together, many waters of this community, we need each of your powers, each of your resilience, and each of your love to make us whole.
It's now time for our annual water communion, led by Leroy Farmer.
Good morning. I'd like to take a few minutes, or a minute anyway, to explain how we'll share water this morning virtually. When you'd like to share, let Julie or Vern know by raising your hand. If you know how to do that virtually, good. That's a way that would be preferred. If you do not, just raise your hand and they'll call on you. Please remember to unmute yourself. And if you don't have your own water this morning or a bowl to pour it in, I can pour some water into a bowl while you share your thoughts. Our annual water communion service celebrates our power as individuals in ritual and in symbol. Each of us, in our own way, out of our own lives, has the power to renew our entire community. We, each in our own lives apart, experience sights, sounds, feelings. We experience these in our homes, our schools, workplaces, our neighborhoods nearby, or when traveling afar. These experiences connect us to the life source within us. This source nourishes us and empowers us to bring our best selves to enrich our gathered community. We symbolize this truth by the water each of us brings and then merges together in a single container. In our beloved community, we empower each other, guide each other, and journey with each other. We do this when we look into the eyes of one another, hold each other when we are suffering, celebrate when we are joyful, and by not losing sight of each other's humanity. Through our collective love, support, and faith in each other, we celebrate a mighty river of change in our communities. A river that wears down the hate, the injustice, and the inequity. A river that heals, soothes, and calms our souls. We remind ourselves this morning through our water communion ritual, each of us adds our own drop of water to the collective stream. And it is in that act that we place our faith in each other to be co-creators in our world, to create the river of love that wears down the rock of hate. I will start, sorry, two things at once here. Let us set our stream in motion by pouring into the bowl the collected from last year's water communion ceremony. It reminds us that we are connected together through time and memories. And this happens to be the 26th year that water has been poured out of this bowl into our community, or out of that container into our communal bowl. So I will start the individual part of the ceremony by adding my water. And this water is from Lake Cortez, a little lake next to where we live in Malaga. You might notice it in the background. It supports thousands of birds each year that both migrate through or live here year round. Seeing those birds daily continually soothes my soul and spirit during this time of pandemic restrictions and political divide. So I give thanks to this water for its role in supporting nature, and nature for its important role in grounding the human spirit during these troubled times. Vern and Julie, would you like to share next?
I'll go first. So I'm Julie, and I have water at home. And water, what this symbolizes to me, it actually hit me yesterday. um, that it symbolizes to me deep peace and meaning that can unite people. And it hit me yesterday on the 20th anniversary of September 11th. And our family had an opportunity to visit Ground Zero a few years back. And the waterfalls that are made there in the foundations of Ground Zero are meant to bring peace and healing. And it's a very sacred and hallowed space, I would say. It's quiet. And when we were there, people just looked and took it in. So as I remembered that yesterday, those are the images that came to mind of that water and that healing and the peace that it can bring to all of us. It's something we all have in common.
I will go. So this water represents the water that's in our fire hose operation outside, that and the water that's in the buckets of the helicopters. So on about July, I think it was the 16th, we had a fire come down pretty close to the house, and I got to use the system that I put in to spray a big hose of water out and on the house and on the yard and all around, and all at the same time. They're right across the fence. The helicopters were dropping buckets of water on the firefighters and on the fire, and it was spraying me from there. I mean, it was quite a wild little experience. But water made all that possible. It wasn't none of that would have happened without the water. And the river, and all of the words we've read about the water that makes the cycle from the ocean back around. So I'm pretty thankful for water just as its practical entity, and also in my attempts to drink more of it every day. That's all.
Ronnie, it looks like you have your hand up.
So this is little dust in my bowl. This is representing all the water that I love. I was blessed to be around water my whole life, having been born right here next to the Columbia River. Played in a little tiny ditch across the street from our house growing up, with snails and rocks and slime. Lake Chelan, where my family took us many, many times to go swimming, and where I took my children. And I was recently able to get in Lake Chelan with my oldest daughter when she was here this summer after not seeing her for almost 2 years. The blessing and the feeling of that water on our bodies. The Aniat River, where I lived for 28 years, and the many creeks and silver falls that I've enjoyed on hikes. Water is life, and we're blessed to live in an area that, although semi-arid, we have abundant water to grow so many beautiful crops and to keep our gardens growing. So water has just been, it just dawned on me, I've always been around water, and it's just very spiritual for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Larry, if you want to unmute and take your turn.
This water represents the water in the Columbia River, where we love to recreate, row, and Larry mentioned our canoeing, and also the Salish Sea, where we were this summer. And I love the fact that it is such a wonderful connection to the ocean, and also supports life, such rich, diverse life, both in the deeper water and on the shore. That to me is just almost magical.
Chris Rader, it looks like your virtual hand is up.
Me?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. This water represents water from the Wenatchee River, which is a playground, has always been a playground for me and my family, and continued to be. Lots of fun times this summer at beaches along the Wenatchee River. And this year, I'm especially mindful of the Pisclosa people who had villages all up and down the river, Lake Wenatchee down to the mouth of the Columbia. And, you know, there's a lot of attention going to land acknowledgements and the Pisclosa Wenatchee people living here. So I'm grateful for that. And I thank you, all of you, for the wonderful readings about water today. This has been just a really lovely service.
Lori Nichols.
Hi. Well, this water represents, to me, when I think of water in Wenatchee, I think of Dave. Dave was an environmental engineer, and his specialty was water, new and used, as he would say. And he taught me so much about water and how important it is from not just a soothing and spiritual perspective, but how water engineers like himself really help keep our communities safer. So he designed wastewater treatment plants, stormwater drainage, stream restoration, all of that. So I always think of Dave when I think of our water ceremony and honor him. I know he always thought this was very special. Thank you.
Betsy, go ahead and unmute. There you go.
There we go. So as I was thinking about this service, my water is represented by my table fountain that I hear behind me. I realized that this last little more than a year has been a little bit of time of sadness for me. I've had the loss of two wonderful friends, and then the brother of other friends of mine. So the water has represented the reminders of the beauty and the continuity of life.
Step right up. Raise your hands. Kathy Lau.
I think I'm unmuted.
Yeah.
Mine, I'm just gonna pour a little bit here. We have had some really fun times with our grandchildren. We went to the water slides for our oldest grandson's birthday, and then we spent time in Chelan, actually at the Worldmark site there with a lovely pool, and just had so much fun splashing around in that. And then I spent time over in Bellingham with my daughter and her family, and they live out on a little farm, and they had improvised a cow trough, a big Rubbermaid cow trough, put a cover or like a big umbrella over it, and threw the slide in, and those three girls were paddling around and splashing and having a great old time. And it just has been a nice warm memory. Thanks.
Deb Miller, it looks like your virtual hand is up.
So I took my water this morning from my memorial pond in my yard. And it's actually kind of fed by the irrigation water. You know, I grew up south of here about 4 hours in dryland wheat country, but we were surrounded by 3 rivers, the Columbia, the John Day, and the Deschutes. And as I'm thinking about this, I remember my summer swimming lessons in the what felt like dirty, icky, turbulent John Day River. And I was terrified of the water for a number of years, but finally overcame that and learned that really underneath the surface of things, water is very calm and very peaceful. So this is my reminder to sometimes remember to go below the surface that seems to be turmoil and emotion, and look for that intuition and acceptance of being flexible and the impermanence of life. Thank you.
Peggy Ludwig. Would you like to unmute and come on in?
Sorry, I kind of lost a few months this summer, just being very busy and was not prepared for this service and should have been. I was at Lake Chelan last weekend and wished I had brought water from there because it's been a favorite gathering place for my family for probably 46 years. So I improvised and decided I was going to honor the water I do drink out of my tap, and it doesn't need filters, and I don't need bottled water. And anyone who comes to visit me always asks, is it okay if we drink this water, out of your tap? And I say, well, yes. I mean, I just take that for granted. But I poured some into my great grandmother's cut glass. Can you see that? Tumbler, who was an immigrant from Denmark, Petrea Hoyer. And a month after she arrived, when she was 20, she got scarlet fever and became totally deaf. So she was an immigrant, did not know English well, and became deaf. So I'm honoring her. I'm actually going to drink this water and just remember my roots and courage of my ancestors. Cheers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Barb.
Barb, come on in. The water's fine. I had to say it.
Hi, yes, I have my water here, and it's from our well, which we share the aquifer with all people within probably a 5-mile radius because we're in the same aquifer. Luckily, our well hasn't gone down much. It's only 53 feet below our house, and it stayed pretty stable all through this drought. I'm very happy for that. Also, I want to remind people that water is the one substance in the world that when it freezes, it expands. Everything else freezes and contracts. And there's a reason for that, but that's a lot of physics, but it's that one thing is very unique to water. It's very special. And the water service, and Leslie, I'm so glad you brought this up with Stephen, and I'm so sorry to hear about his passing. But Stephen Smith is one person I remember, one water service at least 15 years ago. He went up to the front of the sanctuary and said he had just had a seminal birthday, either 60 or 65, and I'm past that now. But he poured it in the bowl and said he's happy to be able to be the age he is and still pass water. So I am so, but I was so delighted with that. It passes through us. It's all around us. We can't live without it. And I appreciate everything about it. Thank you.
Lori?
My water, even though I don't have it with me, would be from Lake Chelan. Yesterday, I swam 1.5 miles in Lake Chelan for a swim. My main goal was to finish the swim, and I got the bonus of not being the last one. So I was very happy about that. And my family has always been water people. I met my husband in the swimming pool, and my kids were swimmers in high school and all through. And I just am so glad that we have Lake Chelan so close.
Pam was raising her hand down here. We don't want to miss anybody.
Well, I'll share my little cup of water. This represents the rain we had the other day, which has been in such short supply, and how much I hope that we will see more water coming in naturally. And also hope that we'll start to see that fall greening of the hills, which we definitely miss when it's so dry.
Here, I can read it. Emily just typed in a message. She doesn't have a microphone. Says, my water represents the water in Bonaparte Lake near Tonasket. We didn't get to see or paddle on this lake in 2021 because of the Walker Creek fire canceled our August camping trip there. Although the fire is now 80% contained, it has burned over 23,000 acres of beautiful forest and wildlife habitat. So Bonaparte Lake near Tonasket, we've been there ourselves. It's a beautiful place. Thanks, Emily. Anyone else? Raise your hands.
I'll go.
Jim, all right.
Yeah, I guess yeah, I enjoy going down to the river down just a few blocks from where I live, and I get a lot of things from that. A lot of sense of peace and cleansing and inspiration for that. And the rolling water is what I think of like sometimes when I'm trying to go to sleep at night. It's just part of my being. I grew up, on the lake and that. So I'm just appreciative of all the things that it does, for me spiritually, and like you were saying about, yes, it passes through you, and I'm very grateful for that, having kidney issues and that. So I'm glad that we have all this resource around us, and that's it. Hold my water.
Thanks, Jim.
Sharon.
My thoughts today are about tears. That yesterday's remembrance of 9/11 and all the chaos and fear of this whole pandemic. And I'm thankful that there are tears that can wash away some of that emotion and help me heal. So my water is tears today.
Thanks, Sharon.
Okay, it looks like that's it. So we'll turn it back over to Leroy.
I'll now take some of this water to be used in next year's water ceremony, continuing the connections, both virtual and real and symbolic. So back to you, Julie.
Please join us in singing together the hymn, Peace Like a River. Make sure you're muted, and you can turn off your video if you like, but belt it out. Make a joyful noise. It feels so good to sing Peace Like a River.
I've got peace like a river, I've got peace like a river, I've got peace like a river in my soul. I've got peace like a river, I've got peace like a river.
We will now extinguish our chalice, and our chalice is at home, with our extinguishing words. After the service, if you like, please stay for a virtual coffee hour. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Carry the flame of peace and love until we meet again. Carry the flame of peace and love until